Okay, right. Cool. Okay, I think we are streaming away, which is good. Let me get myself all set up here. Still getting to grips with the streaming software, but hopefully my screen should be showing my Blender window. Which I don't think it is. Let's try again. Right, okay. Yep, that should be working. Right, sorry for the delay there, guys. Okay, so what I figured I would do this evening is try and do something just brief. So I'm going to do a little bit of animation work, but I'm going to try and do a little bit of colouring as well, which I've not properly done yet. So I'm still getting to grips with the whole Blender thing. So I've got a Blender window open right now. So I'm going to start a new file. So file and new, and we're going to do a new 2D animation. So luckily this remembers my general screen layout. So I've got this already set up as my general animation workspace. It's worth bearing in mind as well that I'm working on a Wacom tablet, but it's a very old Wacom tablet, and the screen is quite small. So because the screen is quite small, that's why you can see it's quite cramped on the screen in front of you there. But if I was doing this on the actual desktop, it would be a lot bigger. But because I want to be able to use the pressure sensitive pen, and I am using it on the smaller screen. So what I was going to do today was pick a really simple character to draw and colour and do just a very basic bit of animation with it. So I thought I would use the Talkie Toaster from Red Dwarf. So I'm assuming most of you guys will be familiar with Red Dwarf, one of my favourite TV shows, and there's this really irritating character called the Talkie Toaster, who looks like that basically. So I thought I would just draw him popping some toast up and catching the toast again, and then because it's quite a simple character to colour as well, I thought that would make sense. So let's give that a go. So I've got my workspace here. Got my drawing tool selected, so we've got that there from the toolbar on the left. Can't remember off the top of my head what the generic setup is for this, so let me just do a quick swipe on here. Okay, yeah, so it's just a basic black brush. That'll work. Let me undo that. So I've got this set out so that the page works, that every time I make a mark on the page, that'll create a new keyframe. And if I jump to another frame, anytime I start drawing, that will create a new keyframe and it'll roll on. So I'm going to just do a really quick sketch of the toaster to begin with. So we'll do And again, this is going to be really, really undetailed. Excuse me. But even though it's going to be really low effort, it should still look, I'm hoping, fairly decent-ish, maybe. Who knows? Right, so we got that there. And that will be his little screen. Okay, so that's going to be the basic, very, very basic shape of the toaster. So if I go into the next frame, when I start drawing on here, it should make a new frame, and you should see a grayed out version of the original frame underneath it, so I can kind of see what I'm starting with. So when the toaster is going to pop the toast out, it's going to do a little bit of squash and stretch. So if we make this look a little bit, how should I do this? Yeah, let's, in fact, let's go back a little bit. Let me go back to frame 1. Or frame, yeah, that one there. I'm going to use my eraser tool, and I'm going to remove that little, I don't know what it's called, the plunger bit of the toaster, I don't know. And we'll just draw that in completely blank like that. So then I'm going to do another layer, and I'm going to put that little plungy bit on its own separate layer. So layers in here are under, I think they're under the green, what is this panel called? Object data properties? Yeah, there we go. There's my layers. So there's a rough layer there. So if I add in a new layer, I'm going to rename this layer plunger. I don't know what that's called. Actually, I'll Google that later and find out. So that's going to call that one. And with that layer selected, I'm just going to draw that there. So that'll hold on that for a little bit. And then if I go to the next frame, we will have this move down ever so slightly. Okay, that's coming up. Okay, and then the next frame, we'll go there. And the next frame will go there. Okay, so all that's doing, that's just the motion of the plunger going down. So I think what I'll do now is keep those held for a couple of frames, so that way it's kind of like the toast is being toasted. No, the bread's being toasted, I should say. And we'll give it a couple of frames and then move along slightly. In fact, let me zoom in on my frames here. Move it up to like frame 10 or 12. And at this point, we start to change the shape of the toaster as well. So let's go back and select the toaster. So I'm now working on the toaster layer. So at this point, he's going to squash a little bit. It's going to be a bit cartoony. but that's the point. And one of these days I will do a really nice, highly polished thing, but that won't be today. So you can see the start of the squash there. Next frame, take it down a little bit more. There we go. That's looking okay, I think. So you can see how that motion is going to work a little bit there. Okay. And with the squashing and stretching, that's just going to bring it down nice and slow. And then it's going to hold for just a couple of frames to really kind of build up that tension before the toast pops up. So I'm going to change my end frame to frame 20 for a moment. So when I preview this, it should just show the whole thing. Okay, that's making all the right noises. Still moving a little bit too fast, so that's fine. What I'm going to do is just move some of these keyframes along. And then that will slow things down just a little bit. Cool. So as the plunger bit hits down, it starts to squash and stretch way too soon. So we're going to move this along a fair bit. Okay, that's looking a little bit more like what I want. And after it holds like that for a while, the next thing we'll do is start the bit where the toast is going to pop up. And of course, this is then going to be the opposite of that squash. This is going to be a bit of a stretch as that toast gets blasted out of the toaster. So how should we do that? If we do that. And again, it's really good to just pick up this nice simple character because there's not a lot of detail. It's basically just a box that's going to move. and I'll move this little plunger in it later. So that goes to there, and then draw the base of the toaster first. And this bit's obviously a little bit more exaggerated. We'll exaggerate that screen as well. And then we'll do another stretch on that one. Okay. I think we'll have him just slightly leave the table a little bit as well. And then while he's in the air, we'll have him return to his normal shape a little bit. Okay. Let's give this a go, see how we're looking. Okay, let's get on there, let's get on there. Right, let's move some of these keyframes along a little bit. Bring this into the air a little bit more. Make that shadow slightly smaller. And then I think I'll just draw him just holding in the air slightly. Okay. can start to bring that shadow down in a second. Let's see how we're looking. Okay, not too bad, not too bad. And on the next frame, you can start to drop back down. And then we can return him to almost to the ground. Oh, yeah, got to draw the shadow back in. Right, let's see if I can take that frame. Copy that one. Bring it back here, and let's paste that there. Okay, I've not really copy and pasted keyframes on this before, so I'm still kind of doing grips with how this stuff works. That looks like it's okay. So the positioning has moved a little bit. Right, let's try and move this slightly to bring it back into alignment, because it needs to end where it starts. Now, I think edit mode is where I can move some things. So change from draw mode to edit mode up here in the top left. So I should be able to grab this particular frame and hopefully move it. Oh. Okay, if I drag a box and select all of that, I think I can use these arrows to then move the thing. Ah, there we go. Okay, cool. So that's the way to do it. Right, so if we bring back more in line this way. So all I'm doing here is just trying to realign the frames so that the movement is a little bit more consistent. Let's give that a go, see how that looks. If I go back to my draw mode, okay, that's cool. And then as he lands, keep one frame of him back to normal there, like that. And then the next frame, we'll squash him back the other way. So we'll do very malleable little toaster. Okay. And that's frame 50. So if I put my end frame to 50, then run that. Okay, there we go. So that looks like that's going to loop reasonably okay, which is what I want. So that's the body of the toaster done. Before I go anywhere else, I'm going to actually save this, because I don't want my program to crash on me and lose all my hard work. Not that it's that hard work, that's quite low effort. Save that. Okay. If you guys got any questions as well, feel free to pop them into the chat, which is here somewhere. I will check it periodically, and I will have a look. Okay, right. So let's do that little plungery thing. So I've selected that. So that goes down by there, and then it now needs to change to kind of go along with this. And as the toaster starts to move, we want to move that along with it. It's really not very detailed at all, this thing. It's just going to be a bit of a blob more than anything else. And then as it holds, we want that thing to move before the toaster does. So if we put that there, and we do one frame of it halfway, so that's that. Then just before the toaster moves, we'll put this right at the top. And then track that all the way up as the toaster moves as well. This is where I learned the principles of squash and stretch animation in university in 1999, 2000, something like that. So memory's not great, but it is actually, you know, there is some knowledge in there. Hey, Sweet Potato is saying something. Hello, Sweet Potato. Squash and stretch and space and you put, it's really good. Oh, cool. Yeah, so there's going to be overlap on the pin, plunger, I don't know what it's called. So we're going to have that now match. So we got that springs up, that takes the toaster with it. And then at this point, that's going to hold there. And then it'll start to come back down. And we're just going to follow that motion all the way through. So by the time it gets to frame 50, it's back there. And it should be back to the beginning. So let's give that a blast, see how that runs. There we go. So, okay, yep, that looks like it's going to work okay, I think. Cool, so stop that, save that there before I forget. And then we'll do another layer behind everything else. So we'll put another layer in here. So I'm in my data object properties panel. No, object data properties panel. Sorry, still learning this stuff. So we've got a layers palette here. I'll add in a new layer, which I will call toast. And I want, eventually that layer is going to be behind everything else. So we'll bump that layer down in the order. So if I use these up and down arrows, that should let me move that layer to the bottom of the stack. And now we can draw in that toast. So let's see. Let's bring this back to the beginning. So we know that that bread doesn't show it at the very start. I'm not actually, no, it would show at the start because the plunger thing's at the top. So it is there on frame 0. So let's just do the world's most basic bread. I've drawn a complete bit of bread here because I think that'll help me when I'm colouring it later. So at the moment this is all transparent, so you'll see I've just put that there, so it'll help me colour it in a bit. So that plunger starts to go down. So if I copy this frame, put that there. And then I can go into my edit mode, grab that, and we move that down ever so slightly. And then on here we'll cheat slightly, we'll just do one quick line. Across the top. And that'll be gone then. So the toast, or then the bread goes down, holds, and then the toaster squashes, and then at that point, here, we want to see that toast start to pop back out. Okay. And then at this point it's in full motion, so we'll put that up to there, I guess. So the toast needs to come reasonably far out. Yeah, I'm not too keen on that one. Let's wipe that off the face of Blender. Try that again. So it's got to jump out. Oh, I was wondering why I couldn't see the toast from the previous frame. It's because on here in the bottom left hand corner I don't have the onion skin turned on. So if I turn that function on, I should be able to see the previous frame. That's better. And again, we're going to put a little bit of squash and stretch into that toast as well. So that jumps up. Put a squash. Boom, boom, boom. And I guess we can hold that toast in the air for a little bit longer than the toaster does. I think I will duplicate that frame and use the edit mode. I will move the toast up, or maybe just down slightly, just to show it start to make its journey downward. So back to my draw mode. Very, very slightly different drawing of the toast by here. We just want to get it ever so slightly different so it's holding in the air for a little bit longer before it really starts to drop down. In fact, we could probably hold it in the air a little bit longer than that. Let's bring that to there, this one to here, that one to here. Yeah, and then we'll start to see that toast start to drop a little bit more. There we go. And at this point, it's almost started to just drop back into the toaster. we'll just draw that bit at the top there. See how that looks. Okay, not too bad. Looks a bit of a weird loop though from where the toaster starts. So if I take that frame, duplicate that. Oh, maybe not. Make it a bit smaller so I can see the end. Right, let's try again. So we'll duplicate and we'll move that to that end one there. So I think this one needs to be moved down slightly. So it can bounce back up. Right, let's give that a crack. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that's not too bad. Again, it's not perfect, it's not polished, but I'm learning, so that's good. Right, so I've saved that now. So I've got my 3 layers of here. I've got the main toaster layer, which is this one. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep my line art on those specific layers, and I'm going to add new layers in between them, and those new layers will be the ones that will have the colour in them. Right, let's see how this pans out. Okay. Right, so if I go back to frame 0, so that I'm not getting myself all tripped up when I colour this, I think what I'm going to do is hide the layers that I don't need at the moment. So we'll hide the plunger, we'll hide the toast. So I've just got the toaster itself. So if I add a new layer here, I'll put that layer directly underneath the toaster layer. I'll call this toaster cols. Not going to bother with any shading or anything, it's just going to be a very, very flat, standard kind of colour. And I'll set that to onion skin as well. So now I need to pick a colour for the toaster, or the colours for the toaster. So as far as I understand it, when you're colouring in Blender, you can colour using not just colours but actual materials. So I think those are under here, which is, yeah, material properties. So if I add a new material, so let's do, if we go for a new material, so this is going to be, I'll call this toaster, no, what? I'll call this body. So that'll be the front of the toaster. Stroke is the line. We don't need that for this, so we'll untick that. We do want this to be the fill though, so we'll click on the fill. We want it to be a solid fill, and the colour for this, I want it to be this kind of like deepish red for the toaster. Yeah, that'll do, something like that. Right, so that's the body of the toaster. Let's make another new material. Get these all set up now. So we do a new material. This one is going to be the side of the toaster. Again, we don't want the stroke, we want the fill. And the side of the toaster is like a sort of a gunmetal grey kind of thing. So we'll find a kind of a greyish colour there. That might be a bit too dark. Yeah, that'll probably work. for the plunger, we'll do a new material. We call this one plunger. So again, we don't need the stroke. We need this to be the fill, and this one will be quite a dark colour for that one. That's fine. And then the last thing to do then is the monitor. So the monitor, in the show, he's got lots of like different colours, and he's all very sparkly. I'm not going to bother with that at the moment. That's too much like hard work. So for this one, we will do, I guess, just like a yellowish, creamy kind of yellowy white colour. Yeah, that'll work. Let's go for that. I'm going to call that one monitor. Right, so I've got the colours. I've got the colour palette for the toaster done. So we'll also then do another new material in advance, which is going to be for the toast itself. So we'll call this toast. And this will be for that sort of like nice brownish colour, if I can find one. Yeah, I guess that looks okay. That'll probably do. And last of all, we need the crust of the toast. Crust. And that is going to be that. Cool. Okay, so I've got my colours ready for what I need to do here. So let's give this a blast. So we've got the toaster layer is the only visible layer here. I'm on frame 0. So let's see now. If I use my fill tool and select the body of the toaster, just using the basic settings, let's see what this does. Okay, that might be a bit too much. And it's because I've left that gap there. Now I know that when you're working with fills, it is possible to do I think it's called like a boundary fill, where you can add a boundary to something to kind of stop an area from filling. I'm not sure quite where that is on here. Maybe completely the wrong bit. And if I am, I'm not going to go through and do loads of Googling to try and find this stuff out. Let's have a quick look in the options here just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okie dokie. What's that there? Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm going about this the hard way. I'm just doing it individual frame by frames. This is my first time trying to color an animation using Blender, so I know it's not going to be perfect. But at the moment, I'm just trying to get to grips with learning this stuff. But I've got to say, it does seem like a really good tool for 2D animation. And if I can stick to my guns and actually make a habit of doing this on the regular, I think I'll be able to learn quite a bit. Okay, so that's the red bit done for the toaster. So let's now try and do the other bits. Right, I'm not sure how this is going to work on this one. Is it going to fill the whole thing grey? Yeah, it is. Okay. So if I try and, try again. If I block up that bit first, will this work? It did. Great. Okay, cool. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the fill tool, or rather I'm using the draw tool, or the pencil tool with the side material. And because it's using a fill, not a stroke, it's letting me draw a filled area. That then blocks off that gap, and I can use the actual fill bucket to do the remaining bit. And these ones are nice simple shapes that should fill quite easily. Yeah, that's working. Okay, that's good. Bring that down, bring that down. Now, same as before, because that's all filled in red. If I get my drawing tool, block off that gap there. That fills that in, that's great, that's what I want. Same thing there. Right, let's give that a crack, see how that looks. Cool, that'll work. Right, there's my monitor, so let's get back to frame 0. Grab my monitor color, grab my fill tool. Okay. And the monitor should be a pretty simple fill job because there's not much to it. I know there are tools in Blender as well which will let you fill multiple frames at the same time. So if you've got a frame where, or if you've got an animation where the frames don't move or they don't change a great deal, you can color multiple frames really quickly, which you probably could do for some of this, but I'm not really sure where those functions are just yet, but I know it's something you can do, so it's worth keeping in mind for the future. Okay, that's the monitor done. Cool. One thing I'm going to do on this frame, you can see the underside of the toaster. I'll use the plunger colour for this one because it's a bit darker. And I'll use the draw tool for this bit. Okay, there we go. There we are. It's a bit rough and ready, obviously, but as a kind of a basic tester for this thing, it is fine. So I can now I'll make my plunger layer visible again. We'll hide the toaster and the toaster's colours. I'm going to make a new layer, so I'm in my data object properties. Put a new layer above the toaster, and this one will be the plunger colours. On frame 0. Right, so if I use my fill tool, this should let me pick up that pretty simply. Yeah, brilliant. And we'll just follow this then through its motions then. This is the thing with animation. It's really good fun working these little problems out and getting to grips with how things move and what the physics of things are and how things should look. Trouble is, there's a lot of tedious stuff with it as well. But it's all part of the process. Okay, so that's all those frames there. So now if I bring my toaster back, oh come on, screen's a bit small here. Right. Oop. There we go. That's not too bad. Not too bad at all. Right. So last but not least, let's add a new frame here, a new layer, I should say. Move it to the bottom. I'm going to call this layer the toast colors. And just so that I know what I am with things, again, we're going to hide the other layers. So I just have the toast. Okay, so got my material properties. So okay, here's the main, like the main body of the toast. Got my fill tool selected. And now we just play that same game. Oh. Ah, there we are, there's my toast. And at this point, we just fill in these in. And away we go. Right, so that's the body of the toaster, and let's get the crust. Too many gaps on this one, so let's draw that in there. I drew one at the top. That should then let me fill that. Yeah, brilliant, okay. Right, so that now should give us the toast, the toaster, and the plunger all animated together. Oh, not going quite right. There's something a little bit wrong with the colours here. Ah, okay, yeah. So if I do, there we are. It was using this keyframe and holding that keyframe right the way through to the next one, which meant there was a little tiny bit of toast sticking up. Didn't need that. So I've added a little bit of colour behind the toaster, and that's just made a new keyframe that's blank. I didn't even need the colour. I could have just made a new blank keyframe. I don't know why I didn't do that. It's because I'm still learning. That's why. Right, so if I hit play now, we should see. Brilliant. There we go. Okay, so that's taken me about, yeah, well, that's taken me just over an hour. But that's not too bad. It means my first real go of testing the colouring tools in Blender as well as the animation side of things. So that's been quite nice to see. But I've definitely got a handle on using like the materials. I'm so used to a colour palette like in Photoshop or Clip Studio. But materials instead of colours is a bit of a different thing. But the handy thing about that is, if I wanted to change the colours, I could. So, for example, the body of the toaster is currently red. But if I was to go in and change that colour to, say, blue, now that'll change it for all the frames. So it's really handy if you wanted to do something like that where you needed to change a character's costume colour or something, across the entire range, rather than having to do it frame by frame. So that's quite handy. Now, the Talkie Toaster should never be blue. He should just always be red. So let's put him back. Yeah, it's cheap and cheerful, but like I say, I'm learning. So that's absolutely fine. Yeah, I'm not particularly happy with the way the bread itself gets a bit too wide at the top. It does change shape quite nastily, so I could go back in and actually change that and like adjust the size of it, but I'm not going to do that right now. It's a bit late. Okay, so if we do, I've saved this now, so let's render this out. So let's see if I can remember this now. We're going to do the, is it, I think it's this one, is it the output? Yeah, output properties. So I want to save this as a movie. So we'll do MPEG video. And then the encoding for this is going to be, I think MPEG 4. So that's fine. No audio, that's cool. Oh yeah, I need to specify where I'm going to save it to. So we'll put this into my Blender tests, and we'll call this toaster, except okay, I think that'll work. And now if I go to my render up here and click on render animation, that should pop up on a new window, and it should then render that out. Might be because I'm streaming as well. It is going not super rapid, but again, my Mac is something like many years old, so it might be because of that. Okay, I think that's done, I think. Close that off now. I'll save that again just to make sure. But yeah, there we are. So that's a nice little experiment in trying to learn a bit of colouring and line art in Blender. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and post it up on Blue Sky in a little minute or two. But in the meantime, guys, for those of you who popped in while I was making that, thanks for popping in. Anybody who's caught up on this after the fact, again, thanks for watching and do appreciate it. And if you've got any kind of comments or anything you want to make, let me know. And if there's anything you want me to try and draw or animate, again, hit me up. I'll certainly take it on board. Can't guarantee I'll do it, but I'll give it a go. And I hope you found that at least semi-useful and not horribly boring, but just standard boring. Right, I'll see you guys at the next one.